At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Happy Tuesday morning to you. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Krueger. You're watching Coffee with Krueger every weekday morning at 6:30, sponsored by, of course, Wind River Resort and Casino. So glad for their support and all of our sponsors' support. Bear Creek near Pondosa. This is our picture of the day, courtesy of Addison Salters. Beautiful shot here. I believe this was taken on February 1st. So I want to thank Addison for sending in that photo. Of course, Addison used the free Weather NorCal app to send that photo. You can do the same, and you just might see it on the morning update and right here on Coffee with Krueger. Let's get you right into your Krueger's Quickcast for your Tuesday, February 3rd. You might be in a bit of a hurry this morning. Hey, let's take a quick look at that forecast, shall we? 37 for Redding, 41 degrees for Red Bluff, 45 in Oroville right now, 19 degrees in Alturas. All right, 45 degrees for Crescent City, 40 degrees in Eureka. We take a look at that visibility, and it looks good, all clear, at least in the valley. Maybe some patchy fog there. And we're seeing some fog right now in Trinity County. All right, down to about a quarter mile of visibility in some spots. That's to be expected. So out the door this morning, some patchy fog for Trinity County, especially those mountain valleys. And even Del Norte, Humboldt counties could see some of that fog, especially in the valleys as well. Otherwise, clear skies and a cold start to the day. A lot of clouds, big storm system over the Pacific, but that's not coming anywhere near us. Why? Because, well, we've got high pressure in place, and that's going to keep that storm from moving on in. Now, we are looking at the potential for maybe some fog creeping its way northward as we go into tomorrow morning. Del Norte, Humboldt, for Butte and Glenn counties. But otherwise, the typical spots, seeing some of that morning fog and clear skies for the rest of us. Mount Shasta Ski Park still open. However, they have closed Coyote Lift, which means a lot of the ski park is closed. There are 39 trails, I believe of 44, 23 inches as of last report at the top of Douglas. Still looking at some pretty good conditions for areas that have the snow. Just be aware that the Coyote lift is closed, but they are offering, from what I understand, some discounted lift tickets. 20% rain chance, basically rain chances are increasing by the time we get to the second half of the weekend and early next week. We're going to get into that a little bit later in our deeper dive forecast. But look at these temperatures for today. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Low to mid 70s in the valley, 60s for most of the higher elevations, and even some low 60s for the coast. How about tonight? Well, we're going to be dropping down into the upper 30s, low 40s in the valley, 20s and 30s for the higher elevations, and mid 40s for the coast. Let's take a look at that 7-day outlook for the valley. Still in the 70s at least through Friday, if not even into the first half of the weekend. But we're going to transition and see some changes by Sunday and Monday with the potential for some wet weather. Now, the timing, the overall intensity of any rain and mountain snow, still uncertain. So we're just kind of putting that wording in there. You're noticing the cooler temperatures. You're also noticing the chance for showers that are in the forecast. All right, that's a look at your Krueger's Quickcast. If that's all you needed, have a great day. If not, stick around. We've got more to talk about in that deeper dive forecast, including that chance for rain. We're going to check in with some of you this morning as well. We've got Tanya, who is checking in this morning. She's saying, woohoo, the best, Mike Krueger. Thanks for all you do. On your humble opinion, what do you think the rain will drag off and on through March? I do think that there are going to be chances for showers. The thing is, we've got to eventually see it change over, right? And we're starting to see those changes as we do go into this weekend and early next week. We've also got Jackie Dixon checking in this morning saying, good morning from Trinidad. Let's see if we can see if she's in there. There she is, one of our regulars. And we've also got Tim Moore checking in this morning as well. Tim Moore saying, morning, Mike Krueger, Weather NorCal. You think we will get a late season winter storm late February or March? Wouldn't that be nice? I'm not big on making those kinds of projections because, as we know, long-range forecast models like to change their mind on a regular basis, right? But, as it stands right now, we're seeing signs of change. And if we can keep that change in place, which, once we get into that longer range of things changing over to more wetter and cooler, I'm not seeing much of it going back to what we're looking at right now. But again, that's a long, once you get past 7 days, 10 days, you can't really rely on it entirely. There's by look at Sutter Buttes. Looks like a little bit of fog there. You can see Crescent City looking absolutely gorgeous this morning. Full moon out there. You can just see that boat out there taking advantage of the calm seas that they have out there right now. This is looking at Bald Hill West. This is in looking down at Hoopa Valley. You can see a lot of the fog that we're seeing trapped in some of those mountain valleys. We've also got Soda Ridge. Looks like a beautiful sunrise photo there. And we've got Fort Jones. Looks like we don't have any fog there this morning, but we do have some snow that is up on Lassen Park. Of course, that's pretty much common here. Looks like we got some coming in. Bree is saying, do we know if we'll have another rainstorm or will it be calm rain? Well, as it stands right now, typically as these cold fronts move through, the winds pick up. But right now, I'm not seeing any impressive storms. But keep in mind, we're seeing a lot of discrepancy in the long-range forecast models. That is, some are much more aggressive than others. So we're going to get into all of that in our deeper dive forecast here. But first, we, of course, need to mention our sponsor, and that is Wind River Resort and Casino. At Wind River Resort and Casino, enjoy friendly service, a wide variety of specials and promotions, plus all of your favorite slots and table games. Thanks again to Wind River for their support of Coffee with Krueger and Weather NorCal in general. So looking at our headlines. More sunshine this week with patchy morning fog, especially for some of the typical areas. Dry and warmer this week. Valley highs in the 70s. Upper 70s possibly by tomorrow. And there's that potential for rain by Sunday into next week. And of course, here's another look at the headlines. We're going to go into your deeper dive forecast here in just a bit. But first, a word from our sponsor, Shasta Hearing Aids.
Hearing isn't just about sound. It's about being part of every moment. This isn't your grandparents' hearing aid. It's a smart hearing aid for modern life. It's Bluetooth enabled, easy to control from your phone with your personal prescription, delivering the clarity you need. All that technology at half the cost of competitors, so you never miss a moment worth hearing. With our Here For You program, you get personal care and support every step of the way. This is what quality care sounds like.
All right, so the big question has been, and I'm noticing this trend this morning, a lot of you are asking about any storms coming in. Are we going to see late storms late February into March? Well, to answer that question, for me to say definitively yes or no would give you a disservice. But here's what I am seeing, and we're going to get into this a little bit deeper, but just to kind of bring you into all this and introduce you into all of this and get this started, I am seeing the potential for changes starting next week. Those changes look to stick. That is, chances for rain look to continue as we go in through next week and even beyond. All right, so let's talk about it. First of all, look at the temperatures out there. It is a cool start to the day, upper 30s, low to even mid 40s for the valley. 19 for El Tourist, 25 degrees out in Susanville, and we've got those temperatures low to mid 40s out along the coast. So visibility, a bit low. You did see out in Hoopa Valley, for example, that fog there. We're seeing a lot of that fog in many of the mountain valleys of Trinity County, but even some inland valleys of Del Norte and Humboldt counties and maybe even western Siskiyou County. But for the most part, looks like we have some pretty good visibility and not much in the way of fog for the valley. However, you head to our south and we are seeing that dissipates by midday. And then by tonight into tomorrow morning, some of that may creep its way northward into places like Chico and to Glenn and Butte counties, but then that pretty much quickly moves on out, if that fog even develops, and then maybe some more fog developing here for you Thursday morning. Storm system, cold front, area of low pressure, cold air, rain, all of that, right? Pretty impressive looking storm system, right? But we've got high pressure in place. That's pushing that energy to our north. So essentially what we got is this blocking ridge. Right here is like a brick wall. Any storms, they butt up against that brick wall. They have nowhere to go, but generally up, and they dissipate. So we're going to see this energy move up to the north and around us over the next several days. Now that ridge of high pressure does give way a little bit by the end of the week, but mainly just in the form of clouds. It then kind of retreats back, what we call retrogrades, and moves its way back over us. Still some clouds, but overall it's a weaker area of high pressure at this point. Then it shifts off to the east, and now the storm door is opening. What I mean by that is, instead of a big ridge of high pressure blocking the storms, now we have a trough of low pressure. Now, don't look at this and go, this is exactly what's going to happen. Pretty impressive looking storm system here. Looks to be mainly to our south. The European forecast model is a bit more aggressive with the chances for rain coming in Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, even Wednesday of next week. The GFS has been a little less aggressive. Now, if we look at the past, if we look at the last several weeks, the GFS has been more in line with what's actually happened. It's been less aggressive with the rainfall as opposed to the European that's been more aggressive. We haven't seen a lot of rainfall overall, so I would be more in line, in tune with what's happening with the GFS, but we'll continue to monitor this here very closely. So this is what we call the national blend of models. This takes a look at the forecast models and puts them all together and kind of comes in with a little consensus as far as what's going to happen. Now, what I would anticipate to happen with these types of systems, and especially with the GFS being less aggressive, I think we're going to see most of it along the coast, and then we'll see in the higher elevations and even the foothills and mountains east of the valley better chances for some more measurable rainfall. But I think we'll see less for places in the valley and even off to the north and to the east, which is pretty typical. Now, snow, we could certainly use more snowpack, and it certainly is showing this. What I'm noticing here, as I look at this model here this season so far, it's been a little overly aggressive with the amount of snow in that long range. So this might be overdoing it, but it certainly will bring more of that snow in those highest of elevations. I'm anticipating that once we do see that potential for rain and snow move in, snow levels will probably start off around 6,000 feet and higher, and then maybe lower a bit after that as we go into, say, Monday, Tuesday of next week. But the Climate Prediction Center, as you see right here, it is putting us in that wetter than normal category. So that is certainly promising. However, side note, all right, a little disclaimer, you may remember before the rain that we saw, very light rain that we saw Sunday morning for the North Coast, it was showing aggressive amounts of rainfall. And then it backed off and it backed off and it backed off. So eventually we just didn't see much rainfall. So just kind of take this with a grain of salt because we've seen this trend before. Warmer than normal conditions are in the forecast. However, we look at the long range, 10 days. Yes, it's beautiful spring-like weather, right? Then temperatures start to drop. This is in line with that potential for some rain developing by Sunday, Monday, Tuesday as the temperatures start to drop. In fact, by Tuesday, you can see they finally drop below normal, but they start to tick back upward, which helps to support that Climate Prediction Center looking at that warmer than normal category. Now, we've been talking about the snow levels are low. We've been talking about the rainfall amounts that we've seen are above normal in most cases. And you can take a look at the lakes. Historical average, over 120 to even over 130% of average for this time of the year. Wave heights are low today, but we do expect to see them to increase as we go into your Wednesday. We may start to see some small craft advisories emerging by tomorrow, but in the meantime, looks pretty good for today with southeast winds at about 5 knots and your waves from the west at 7 feet at about 13 seconds. All right, so here's your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. It's going to be a gorgeous spring day in Trinity County. You've got temperatures in the low 60s, low to mid 60s for your daytime highs on average. Now, across the board, what you're going to see is that by Sunday into Monday, we are going to be looking at a chance for rain, and that's across the board for everybody. Coast, inland, mountains, and the valley. Temperatures are also going to be well above normal for this time of the year for the rest of the week, including the inland areas. Not quite in the 70s, but I think it will be close in some spots. For Siskiyou County, you're looking at temperatures in the 50s and some 60s in there. Look at Dunsmuir, 66 for today. 67 in McLeod and Mount Shasta City, about 63. Modoc County, you're looking at temperatures in the 50s, even some 60s in the forecast. 64 degrees for Aden, 60 in Tule Lake and Elturus, about 62. Southward, 64 in Fall River Mills, 67 for Viola. Shingletown, about 70, as well as Paradise, and 55 degrees in Janesville. Let's take a look at that forecast for the valley to the south. Temperatures low 70s for Corning, southward into Durham. Gridley, about 70. 7-day forecast for Chico. Temperatures are eventually dropping in the low 60s by Saturday, Sunday, with a chance for some showers. 75 degrees for Redding, though. 76 for the city of Shasta Lake, as well as Palisadro, and 74 degrees in Red Bluff. Let's take a look at that 7-day forecast for Redding. And I mean, it's just going to be gorgeous, gorgeous weather for the next several days, but we do have more rain in the forecast. And we're going to be able to really watch that and monitor it closely, see what's going on with all of that as far as the amount of rainfall we expect. Right now, I would do you a disservice to even try to project rainfall amounts as we go into next week and even snow in the higher elevations, but it is something we're monitoring very closely. And really all the models align, all the signs are pointing to a change in the weather pattern for the better, right? Cooler, more unstable. But Are we going to get any decent storms coming in? That's a bit of a question mark at this point. Some of you are checking in again this morning. Looks like Curtis is actually checking in with some rainfall totals. He says, for the year to date, they've had about 17.3 inches. That's good. That's a good amount of rainfall that we've seen so far for the year, so we can't complain about that. But I think it's time. I think it's time for us to start to see some more rain. We've got Nick Walker saying, I'm a tree trimmer in Redding, and some of the trees are already starting to bud out. Must be all the warm weather. Absolutely. I mean, I've been on some hikes. You're starting to see a few wildflowers starting to come out. I think it was the daffodils. I think my wife was saying she saw some of those kind of blooming as well. We've also got Donna saying, boy, we need the rain. And yes, indeed, Donna, we do. Wouldn't it be nice to see some of that rainfall? So let's keep our fingers crossed. Maybe I think if we all collectively wash our cars on Saturday, then it'll rain. Because we all know when we wash our car, it rains, right? So maybe if we all collectively wash our cars on Saturday, it'll rain on those freshly washed cars. And I don't think anybody would be complaining about that. So thank you all for checking in this morning. And that's going to do it for us this morning. I hope you got everything you needed out of the forecast. I'm going to keep checking for any comments, for any questions that you may have. But bottom line, if you have any major questions, I did go into the deeper dive. I did go into some great detail. You can always check the latest forecast at weathernorcal.com. In fact, I'm going to take you to that website. There we go. We're going to take a look at that website here. There's weathernorcal.com. You've got the 24-hour streaming channel, which it will eventually load up. And there it is. And you can stream down here. You can take a look at some of the special programming, current conditions, the radar. There's a forecast discussion I update every day. You can check out your neighborhood forecast, all of the different neighborhood forecasts. And if you want to watch, if you say, oh, I just missed Coffee with Krueger, not a problem, because when you go in there, it will have the latest Coffee with Krueger. The one you see right there is from yesterday. But of course, as soon as this is done with, I will be sure to include that in the forecast as well. Once again, that's at weathernorcal.com. Click on where it says Coffee with Krueger. Weekday mornings at 6:30, and you'll be able to watch the latest video forecast. In the meantime, let's take a look at some of these beautiful cameras across the area. This is Soda Ridge looking out at Mount Shasta. Have yourselves a great day. We'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning at 6:30 right here on Coffee with Krueger. Have a great day.